So, today we're going to dig into the origin story of one of the most famous brands on the planet, Trump. But look, this isn't about politics. This is about the business playbook that was forged in the grit of 1970s New York, a set of rules that defined a career through these spectacular highs, some devastating lows, and a comeback that honestly, nobody saw coming. All right, let's get into it.
Back in the 90s, Fortune magazine put this out there. I mean, what a statement, right? It really gets to the heart of the mystery of his story. And it makes you ask the big question we're going to try to answer here: how? How did he do it? What was the method behind the madness?
To find that answer, we're going to trace his story through 5 key chapters. We'll start with a mentor who taught him his ruthless rules, then see how he built this gilded empire, became the king of Atlantic City, then watch it all come crashing down, and finally witness the rebirth of a master showman.
Okay, so let's rewind. The year is 1973. Donald Trump is just 27 years old, he's president of his family's real estate company, and he is staring down the barrel of a massive federal lawsuit. The Department of Justice is coming after his company for systemic racial discrimination in their housing rentals all across New York. This was a huge deal.
So, at a private club in Manhattan, a pretty worried Trump gets a meeting with a man named Roy Cohn. Now, you've got to understand, Cohn wasn't just some lawyer. He was a force of nature, a feared power broker who knew where all the bodies were buried. His client list was a who's who of the rich, the powerful, and the infamous. This guy understood how power really worked.
Cohn basically takes the young Trump under his wing and teaches him his personal code. 3 simple but absolutely brutal rules. Rule number 1, attack, attack, attack. Never defend. Always punch back and punch back harder. Rule number 2, never ever admit you're wrong. Deny everything, even when they've got you dead to rights. And rule 3, if all else fails, find their secrets and use them.
So, Trump's own lawyers are telling him, hey, just settle this thing, make it go away. But Cohn, he comes in with this completely wild idea. He applies rule number 1 right out of the gate. He tells Trump, we're not settling. We are going to sue the Department of Justice for $100 million for defamation. It was pure, unfiltered aggression.
And you know what's wild? It actually worked. I mean, the countersuit itself got tossed out, but that aggression completely changed the game. In the end, they did settle, but the terms were incredible for Trump. No admission of guilt, no fines paid. Now, according to our sources, this is where Cohn might have used his 3rd rule, allegedly using some compromising photos to pressure a key official. For Trump, this was a light bulb moment. Cohn's playbook wasn't just a theory, it was a weapon.
All right, so armed with this new playbook, Trump turns his attention from the family business out in the boroughs to the biggest stage there is, Manhattan. But you got to remember, this was not the shiny Manhattan of today. In the mid-70s, they called it Terror City. The place was drowning in crime and was literally on the edge of going bankrupt.
Trump saw the chaos, and he saw a massive opportunity. He zeroes in on the bankrupt Commodore Hotel, this huge, decaying building right by Grand Central. And in a city that was absolutely desperate for any sign of life, he made an unbelievably audacious demand: give me a 40-year tax break. He used the city's desperation, his mentor's connections, and a media blitz to get it. This deal, worth about $160 million, had never been done before. It catapulted him into the big leagues overnight.
Now let's talk about his next big project, Trump Tower, because this is where we really see that strategy of perception versus reality get perfected. The public image was all about pure, over-the-top luxury, the best of the best. But behind the scenes, according to construction managers from that time, it was a different story. They allegedly used the cheapest wood floors they could find, subpar materials, and even got their concrete at a discount through mafia connections. So the lesson here is crucial. The money wasn't spent on the actual materials. It was spent on the marketing, on creating this irresistible illusion of wealth.
By the 1980s, Trump was an absolute rock star. His brand meant success, it meant luxury. He really believed he had the Midas touch, that anything he slapped his name on would just turn to gold. So naturally, he set his sights on the next big boomtown, the brand new gambling mecca of Atlantic City. And man, when he decided to go in, he went all in. He didn't just test the waters, he did a cannonball. In just 6 years, he opens not 1, not 2, but 3 enormous casinos, all culminating in the Trump Taj Mahal, a behemoth that cost over $1 billion to build. So how in the world do you pay for $1 billion dream? Well, in this case, you take on a mountain of debt.
A huge chunk of it, $675 million, came from something called junk bonds. Think of them as super high-risk loans with a crazy high 14% interest rate. To put that in perspective, the Taj Mahal had to make over $1 million in profit every single day, just to break even. And when one analyst warned that the project was a bad bet, he was reportedly fired because Trump insisted on it.
So you've got this massive empire built on a foundation of debt. What could possibly go wrong? Well, pretty much everything. The go-go 80s hit a wall. A market crash, the crushing weight of all that casino debt, and a very public, very messy scandal all hit at the exact same time. It was the perfect storm.
And just look at that number. By the early 90s, the Trump Organization was reportedly $3.2 billion in the red. And his personal piece of that, almost $300 million. The guy who was the symbol of 80s wealth was now facing complete financial ruin.
And just when you think things couldn't get worse for him professionally, his personal life just explodes onto the front page of every single tabloid. His affair with model Marla Maples became this national soap opera, and it all famously came to a head with his confrontation with his wife Ivana on a ski slope. The divorce was nasty, public, and expensive, especially since Ivana had been a top executive and a huge part of building the whole empire.
And then, the dominoes just started to fall, one after another, fast. In just over a year, the crown jewels of his empire all filed for corporate bankruptcy. The Taj Mahal, the Trump Plaza, the Castle, even the legendary Plaza Hotel in New York. The name that once meant the Midas touch was now stamped with failure, over and over again, for the whole world to see.
Okay, so for pretty much anyone else, a multi-billion-dollar collapse and public humiliation would be it, right? Game over. His real estate empire was a wreck. The banks wouldn't touch him. He had to figure out a totally new way to survive and, more importantly for him, a new way to win.
So I'm asking you, what do you do when your whole identity as this master builder and deal maker is completely shattered? How do you possibly recover from that?
You don't play the old game. You invent a new one. Trump figured out that his most valuable asset wasn't his buildings anymore. He'd lost control of many of them. No, his most valuable asset was his name, his brand. So he pivoted. He stopped being a real estate developer and became a media personality.
And the perfect vehicle for this transformation was a little show called The Apprentice. And you have to understand, the pitch from producer Mark Burnett, the guy who created Survivor, was just genius. He told Trump, "This isn't just a TV show. This is a 1-hour primetime commercial for you. It'll show off your hotels, your golf courses, your jet, and most of all, your persona as the ultimate master of the business universe."
And at the absolute center of this whole reinvention were two simple words. With "You're fired," he completely rebranded himself. He wasn't the guy whose casinos went bust anymore. He was the tough, all-powerful CEO in the boardroom, the one who calls all the shots. It was a total reinvention of his public image. And it worked. I mean, it worked like you wouldn't believe. The Apprentice was a monster hit. It reached tens of millions of people every single week. It made him a household name to a whole new generation, and it completely revived his finances. He literally turned his biggest failure into the launch pads or his greatest success. Which brings us right back to where we started. That playbook, forged with Roy Cohn way back in the 70s. Attack, never admit guilt, use the media, sell the illusion. It absolutely saved his business career. But the final question we have to ask is, was it just a playbook for building towers and casinos, or did it end up becoming a blueprint for a much, much bigger stage?